So, Jerry, hello.
Hello, Dobroslawa. It's so nice to be here. I really, your conference was just incredible. I enjoyed it so much. Such a friendly atmosphere, and I met so many interesting people at the conference, and I learned so much. It was really a thrill and a delight. And thank you so much for inviting me.
I'm happy to hear this.
Yeah,
you know, you are in Poznan for the second time actually, and I was thinking, preparing this conference. It was actually, as you know, the third conference.
Right, I understand that.
For
right,
energy and information medicine, an international conference in Poznan, and we are really happy as association for energy medicine about the feedback, because the feedback, you know, it was absolutely fantastic. People loved it very much.
Yeah.
They loved all the lectures, because you have been there, Caroline McMakin was there, I was having my lecture, great Michaela Stroe from Romania, and I just wanted to know what was for you so special. I mean, why such conferences are needed in general?
Well, so what was so special? As you pointed out, you know, every lecture was special, and for me, you know, I'm involved with the details of easy water, and some of the lectures were on subjects that for me were not so familiar, and you invited the best people, you know, to talk about each one of the subjects, and so I learned a lot about time waiver. This was pretty new for me and interesting, and from Michaela, just an absolutely splendid talk about how she uses time waiver in her studies, and a brilliant woman. She must be in her private work. She must be so incredibly successful. And Carol McMakin, you know, pioneer in the field.
Yes.
You know, it was really splendid, and your own talk also, especially about the experience of getting burned and how quickly you could recover from the burn with the time waiver. It was really impressive, and I appreciate your courage in showing the video of yourself. Not many people would do that, and so anyway, a conference like this, bringing together, well, I think you had probably 100 people or so, or 80 people or something?
It was actually, when we counted, it was 150 people.
Oh, 150
yes.
people. Oh, yeah.
Because we had places for 200 in general, and 148 or something like this.
Impressive. And they came from all over.
They came from Poland, they came from Germany. We had one woman from China.
Right, I met her from China.
From Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And yeah, from Germany, mostly from Germany. From abroad, it was Germany. But tell me, why we should organize conferences like that, which are actually conferences from the new science. So we do something what for the mainstream sometimes is maybe surprising, maybe new, but for open-minded people it's like a blessing. I've heard that they really loved it because it was very open-minded and multidimensional, even, I would say.
Well, for the people who are involved with this sort of non-mainstream people, you know, it's like being a minority, and when you're a minority, the mainstream often will reject you because they're invested in what they do, and they don't want to be challenged by something that threatens what they do. So being a kind of minority, it feels good to mix with other people who are in a minority. You feel that you're not alone, that you're dealing with others in your group, and that makes for a kind of friendly atmosphere where, and this conference was exactly that way. It was really, really friendly, and for the mainstream people who were there, many of these people presume that time waiver stuff is, some kind of nonsense that has no place in medicine. But they learn, they learn a lot. They come to the conference and they learn.
They were shocked, actually,
They were shocked.
They were shocked.
Yeah.
Because they saw evidence-based results, and they were actually absolutely surprised. Many of them told me, I had no idea that you can heal a burn, which is really a big thing. Burn, 3rd grade. It's something what heals.
3rd degree, yeah. Third
3rd degree. It's something that heals 1 month and more.
Yeah.
Not in 10 days.
Yeah. Well, that's absolutely incredible. It's really fascinating. Yeah. So those people understand there's really something to it. They can. Many of them have the sense of disparaging anything like that because it's not mainstream and therefore it must be nonsense or it must be wrong. It must be the work of charlatans. And then they see that it really works.
Exactly.
And this is really important because often, the mainstream people feel maybe somewhat threatened by these technologies and such that have the capacity to heal. But once they learn about it, they maybe feel familiar with it, and when they feel familiar with it, they appreciate it more, and so this is important. So it's important, both for the mainstream and especially for the people who are open to these kinds of approaches. And I myself have limited experience with it, and so I learned so much from just listening to the talks and meeting the people and discussing it. A bunch of really enthusiastic people. I was so impressed. So thank you so much for the opportunity to learn about it. It was really wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, because you are academic professor, so university professor from University Washington in Seattle. And you know how it is when you, on one hand, you belong to mainstream in the sense that you are a university professor, but on the other hand, when you have new ideas which are very out of the box, you know what it means to discuss with this establishment. So I appreciate what you just said.
Well, I know, but I suffer the same issues, the same problems, and many of the people at my university are very mainstream. So I'm actually a professor in the School of Medicine, and so
Yes.
so these are the mainstream people, and
Yeah.
what I'm doing is completely non-mainstream. So I know something of the culture, and sometimes the culture is not so accommodating. I paid the price during the past years myself. I used to be in the field of muscle contraction, the
Yes.
molecular mechanism of contraction, and I didn't step on the toes of too many people, and so I was okay. But more than 2 decades ago, I switched fields to water, and water it has been, or is certainly a mainstream kind of issue, but what we found was non-mainstream, and it offended many people. There are many professors with different views, and they have fragile toes, and I was stepping on their toes. So they reacted, and it's been an issue for my own career at my university. Sometimes I feel like I'm an outsider
Yes.
entering into a group of hostile people. So I understand well that here in Europe how you know, I know in the field, for example, of homeopathy, and
Yes.
in Germany they're threatened, and many of the people who do it successfully are under attack by people who say, well, there is no evidence. Of course, there's a lot of evidence, but you know, if you
Voikov, for instance.
well, Volkov,
Yeah.
yeah, but he's done some, but mostly he presents the work of Alexander Konovalov
Yeah.
from Kazan, who has a massive amount of evidence about homeopathy. And this is a distinguished guy. He was rector of his university, and before that, he was the head of a famous chemical institute. And when he retired as president or as rector of the university, he went back to the lab and he began studying what happens at high dilution. He has a massive amount of evidence, and the evidence is directly relevant to homeopathy. And for me, it's just incredible that people can say there's no evidence, you know, just dismiss it with a wave of the hand, when this guy spent years presenting massive and convincing evidence for what happens at high dilutions. And he shed so much light, presented by Vladimir Volkov.
Yeah.
So much light on the mechanism of homeopathy that I'm actually kind of disappointed, not exactly shocked, but disappointed that people are not willing to just read it, pay attention to it. They can disagree with it, that's fine, but at least they have to read it. And to say that there's no evidence, for me, it's just you know, it's a fabrication.
You know, I'm thinking about this famous sentence that a lie, which is repeated many times, can become the truth. So I mean that people who just hear from the TV, let's say, this idea that homeopathy does not wrong, they just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, and people have no clue, no idea that there are so many papers, scientific papers, which actually can prove that homeopathy works. So, but my last question to you is actually connected with water, with your subject, with 4 fates of water and frequencies, because as you know, I work with microcurrent frequencies in my practice, and I use it every day. I support many people, and I have the honor to be a speaker at your venue in Water Conference in Portugal, in Lisbon, in October, where I invite everyone to attend. You will find the link to Water Conference under this interview. But back to my question, I have the hypothesis, it's a hypothesis now, but it's the first step, that microcurrent frequencies can influence the growth of easy water in human body. What do you think about it?
Well, I think you're onto something. I would put it maybe a little differently.
Yeah.
You know, easy water has a regular structure, and if you think about storing information, structural regularity is really important. Like liquid water, for example, the molecules are randomly distributed, and they're bouncing around a fierce number of times per second, and that's not the kind of material, if you will, that can store information. But easy water is not like that at all. It resembles it's something like a computer memory, you know, a thumb drive. If you think about a thumb drive, it consists of a huge number of transistors, and the transistors are arrayed in a regular fashion in 2 dimensions. It's planar, and each transistor has the capacity to be on or off or 0, 1. And it's the distribution of zeros and ones that are responsible for storing the information. And so there's a kind of generic structure that exists, but that's just a generic structure. The actual structure, it depends on the surface that's nucleating the growth of the EZ. So in other words, the generic structure of an EZ has a capacity to change, to vary somewhat. The idea of imposing frequencies is imposing a kind of information. So if you're imposing a kind of information, the distribution of these, shall we say, zeros and ones, or oxidation states of the oxygens that are involved in the EZ water, this distribution is what carries the information. So if you impart one frequency versus another frequency, the changes in each case will be different. So you get a different pattern of distribution in the array, the two-dimensional array. There's actually 3 dimensions, but basically the two-dimensional array of EZ water. And if that happens, the actual information that's stored in EZ water can then feed back to change the information in the solids, in the proteins, whatever is nucleating the growth of the EZ water. Mm-hmm. So the frequencies, and this is of course hypothesis, yes, the frequencies impact the exact structure of the EZ water, and the EZ water then impacts the structure of the surface, or even deeper in the proteins or nucleic acids or whatever solids, and that means your function is going to be impacted. So I'm sorry, it's a kind of long story, but the short story is yes, I think the frequencies, depending on the particular frequency, will impact the proteins that are responsible for action. And so if the proteins are not working as well as they ought to be working in a particular instant, the frequencies that are imparted will change the structure in such a way, empirically determined, can improve the function. So I'm sorry, this is a sort of, it's better to have a diagram, but
no, I appreciate it very much, because as you know, we can prove already that, for example, as I told you and other audience yesterday in the conference, we know that, for example, 40 Hertz on channel A, when we are working with FSM, with time wave McMakin, 40 Hertz on channel B, which is for making the inflammation lower.
Yeah.
So we decrease inflammation, and we put 40 on channel A, and we put 10 on channel B, and 10 Hertz is for spinal cord. We already know that the inflammation in spinal cord decrease, but significantly. So the interleukin 1, the inflammatory cytokine, is going from 390 to 25. Oops.
Wow.
So it's huge.
Wow.
But when we look through it, we know we are full of EZ water. And for me, it's just natural, absolutely simple. If it can impact the cell and the inflammatory cytokines, it has to have the impact, the influence on EZ water in us.
Well, I think so. Your cells are, I mean, absolutely filled with EZ water. And EZ water is the really major constituent in our bodies, in our cells. We're 2/3 water, and most of that water is EZ water. So if there's any interaction with water, it's likely to be EZ water, which has exactly the right structure to be influenced.
Yeah.
But so I have one question for you. Are there a particular group of frequencies that can regrow my hair that's missing?
Actually, we have frequencies for hair growth, and we are quite successful, but there are, you know, many factors, and one of them is age connected with a very wise head. But we can try. We can try. You already had treatment in my practice, so
I've had treatment, and if you grow back my hair, I'll be thrilled.
we can check it out.
Okay.
I'm very looking forward to water conference. I wonder what other scientists will would say about this hypothesis I just shared with you. I'm open to any discussion and support, and we will see.
Well, we'll see. I think there'll be a lot of discussion there because the people who attend are people who are curious, who are open-minded, and who like to put their minds to new phenomena that seem revolutionary. You'll find that there. Well, you know, because you've been there. It's a friendly atmosphere, an atmosphere where everybody is accessible. All the meals are held together, and you know, if you like to speak to Professor A or Dr. B, you just sit next to them at breakfast or lunch, and there you go.
Yes,
and it's one. I think this is the 16th year. We've been around for a while.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. So I think we can say see you in water conference, and we have to go because we have a frequency treatment in my practice waiting for us.
Okay, I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you, and thanks for inviting me. It was really a splendid conference.
My honor and my pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.